To everybody, either here with us on Zoom and who's watching this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm happy that we're going to be sharing our soul medicine circles to a wider community, because this is really all stuff that we can be doing at home to align with the seasons, to align with the cosmos, to get our energy right, to get our spirit right. So hopefully we can all join in this healing magic and shapeshift like we do. So today we're going to be talking about, today's the new moon in Gemini. So we're going to be talking about the new moon in Gemini and some ways to align with that and bring that forward in our lives. And then we're also going to be talking about the wood element, because this is the season of the wood element. And as I'm talking to my friends, as I'm talking to my clients, as I'm talking to my family, as I'm talking to myself, writing in my journal and all those things, so many of the feels that we're feeling right now are so closely aligned with the wood element and the signatures of the wood element. And so just really wanted to touch base with that and look at where the new moon in Gemini and the season of the wood element kind of come together, because we can work with both of those energies and really open some things up in a positive way for us this cycle. So first, let's start with the wood element. We started talking about the wood element last week with the season and the cycles of the elements. And the wood element is, the signature of the wood element is the sprout. It's this period of birth and regrowth and renewal, and this idea that we're coming up out of the darkness. Like, you know, when you're a seed, you're planted and you're under the earth and there's all this compression. And when the wood element comes in the spring, it's this kind of shooting up and breaking out of that compression, going against the flow of gravity, and really reaching up to find the sun. And I love how the light is dancing off of these little sprout leaves, because that's basically what it feels like inside of us. It's like that part of ourselves that's reaching up for the sun and just kind of basking in the glory of the light and the newness and the freshness of the season. And so some of the associations with the wood element are the sunrise, you know, the time of the wood element. When we look at the movement of the sun throughout the day, the sunrise in the east is the wood element signature, and this period of birth. So when we speak about the spring and we talk about like the animals are being, all the little animal creatures are being born, all the flowers are starting to sprout up and bloom. It's really that time. And within us, we can feel that, like, that hope or that excitement or that anticipation, like this idea that like something new is coming. And I might not even know what it is, but I'm excited about it. You know, when the wood is healthy, we feel that impulse of like coming out of our shell, coming out of the darkness, peeking out into like a brave new world and feeling excited to explore it. And the energetic of the wood element is up. So just like this sprout is going against the flow of gravity, you know, the emotion that the wood element brings up is anger, and it's this upward rising force within us. It's that part of ourselves that is standing up and rising up, like we can even hear in our language, like rising up to face the light. And so that energy is the energy of change. And so in the West, anger gets a bad reputation because people don't really know how to handle their anger. They do all kinds of foolishness when they're angry, instead of really tuning into like, what is that anger asking for? What is it calling out of us? And so that energy of change can show up as anger, it can show up as frustration, it can be irritability, impatience. And then if it can't get expressed or nothing moves or nothing changes, which is what that energy is looking for, then we can fall into like hopelessness and resignation. And so as we enter week 1000 of this shelter in period, that's what I'm hearing a lot of. I'm hearing a lot of people being like, oh my God, I just want to be outside. I don't want to be restricted. I don't want to be contained. Folks are getting a little irritable with the people in their lives. And then also like that depression and hopelessness that comes from like, I don't feel like I can do and be all the things that I want to do and be. And so I'm kind of sinking down like that little sprout that's not getting any light. So that's kind of the energetic that we're in. And no, you can check in with yourself and see how is that showing up for you? Are you feeling some frustration, some irritability? Are you feeling some for lack of a better word. And that's the wood element. That's the wood element saying, hey, like it's time to sprout. It's time to reach out. It's time to be in the light. And if I can't do that, I'm going to feel a way about it. And so the acupressure point that I want us to bring into our lives, or I'm inviting us to bring into our lives, is this acupressure point called the Great Esteem. And it's the wood point on the wood meridian. So it's really going to activate that energetic of opening to all of the gifts that the wood element brings. Potential, movement, vision, planning, the ability to kind of move forward into our vision. I would show it to you on my own foot, but I have not had a pedicure in the whole 8 weeks, so I'm not going to play myself. But hopefully on this picture, you can see where to find it. It's going to be on the inner corner of your toenail on both sides. So if you can see from the picture here, right at the edge, the inner edge of your big toenail and the bottom corner where that junction point is, you're going to find this little acupressure point called the Great Esteem. And for most of us, it's a little tender, right? It's a little sharp. So as we're massaging that point, we can kind of call in this idea of awakening that vision, awakening that sprouting for ourselves. So just take a minute to find that point on your foot, wherever you are, and just give it a little massage. And maybe as you do, you take a nice deep breath and allow yourself to wait for a vision to arrive of your becoming, or affirm that vision of your becoming. And then when you finish that side, you can go ahead and switch and massage the other side, because it is a point on both feet. Maybe one side is a little more tender or a little less tender. And with this point, I like to use, if you work with essential oils, I like to put a little bergamot on this point and give that little spring-like energy. You don't have to put a whole lot, just putting a little dab will do. You just put a little drop there and give it a nice little massage. You might feel your chest expanding a little bit as you take a breath, and just kind of feel that upward energy of this point, the Great Esteem. And it's really helpful when we feel blocked, or we feel stuck, or we can't change, or we don't have a vision. It's a point that we can call in as kind of like, help me see this vision. Help me see what the wood is calling in for me. From a flower essence perspective, and y'all who work with me for a while know that I love to start new flower essences on the new moon. And that's a whole other conversation that I will not bring us into now. But the flower essence that I love for this wood element season, this awakening, this arising, is a flower essence called Abundance. And this is a flower essence for creatives, for entrepreneurs, for visionaries, because it's based on the philosophy that our abundance comes from living on purpose. And so this is a flower essence that's designed to help us tune into what is it that we want to explore, what are the channels that are awakening for us, and how can we have the confidence or the great esteem to stand in our vision and be open to the synchronicity and the support that's coming our way from the universe that wants us to also be successful. So that is a flower essence you can find on my website. And it's a really great one to work with in this season of Gemini, which I think we should talk about. So the new moon in Gemini, and everyone kind of has a different experience with astrology. Some people love it and swear by it and go really in depth into their chart and their transits and their aspects. Some people kind of dabble and will read like a little thing here or there. And some people think that it's total nonsense. So wherever you fall on that spectrum, what I invite you to think about with the astrology and the astrological seasons is that if each of these signs represents an aspect of our psyche, then we can really use the movement through the calendar as just different touch points to say, okay, well, what part of myself do I want to explore right now, whether I believe in the astrology or I just need a system to organize my inner work. I think that astrology is extremely powerful, and I definitely feel the shifts. But even if you don't, just using it as a way to think about, like, what's up with me? What's going on with me? And so as we move into this season of Gemini, we're coming out of Taurus season. So Taurus season was all about stillness. And y'all who were with us last new moon, stillness, getting grounded in the earth, being able to surrender into silence. Some of us worked on practices to get connected to nature and to unplug a little bit so that we could really feel that inner solace and the sensual beingness of being humans on this like beautiful, wonderful earth. So Taurus season was very inward and still. And then Gemini comes and is like, nope, we're going out. We're going out. What do I want to learn? What do I want to explore? What are they doing over there? I've been in my house. What are they doing in their house? And that's kind of the language of Gemini. Gemini is all about curiosity and excitement and this kind of exuberance that is about exploring and discovering from being in communication with others. It's like this energy that's like, okay, let me get out of my own self and my own world and into the world and the world of ideas. And so I love this painting. One of my favorite artists is Frank Morrison. And this painting, I love it because I think it really captures the feeling of Gemini. Like we have this woman who is on the move, which is like a signature of Gemini. Gemini is on the move, and she's into all of these different things. She's into her music, she's into her travel, she's into her dancing. You can see some little figurines on the piano keys over there. She's got lots of colors and cultures and symbols represented in her clothing. And this energy of Gemini is very much about like, what are all the things that I'm into? What are my hobbies? You know, Gemini is an air sign. Air signs deal a lot with thought and communication and movement. And so some questions that can guide us during this Gemini cycle are, what kinds of topics are you interested in learning and exploring? So maybe there are some things like we were thinking, oh, maybe I'll take a class in this or that, or I've always wanted to X, Y, and Z. And the Gemini energy is going to be really supportive of you actually taking steps to explore those things. So what new hobbies are speaking to you? I've developed this really fun hobby around painting and coloring books. I did not know that I was so drawn to color in this way, but it's been like a new thing for me and I've been getting really into it. How can you take advantage of this moment to introduce yourself to new ideas? So, and by this moment, I mean, many of us are in shelter in quarantine situations. We're not maybe going out as much, but then what are the resources that are available to us to explore, whether it's through books, whether it's through so many studios and institutions are offering things online now. So there's, you know, which is also the airwaves and communication and very much in that Gemini domain. So maybe this is the time to start exploring, you know, what else is out there for me? You know, maybe a month ago, it wasn't time because we were still in that inward space. But now it's like, hey, come on out, let's blossom, let's bloom, let's sprout. And so how can you take advantage of that? And then really important with this air sign and with Gemini is how can you connect with others to exchange ideas? So Gemini is not so much about being in your own head, but it's really about the exchange of ideas, which is why Gemini is associated as a sign that's really talkative, because it's very much like, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, you tell me what you're thinking, and we're going to kind of go back and forth. So as you're thinking about the hobbies and the new ideas and the new classes or the new books or the new whatever that you're going to discover this cycle, how can you do that with other people? And how can there be an exchange and a dialogue that feels really enlivening and energetic and creates a lot of movement for you? So the last piece that I want to share is now how do we take all those ideas and ground them? Because the Gemini air sign energy is kind of notorious for being all up in the head and in the ethers. And how do we take that and ground it down onto earth? So finding a little bit of balance there. And so what I'd love to invite us to do is what I'm calling a garden your life visualization. And so I'm going to guide us through it. If you can just kind of move yourself into a comfortable space and feel your feet on the ground wherever you're sitting. Maybe roll your shoulders down and back so that you can feel that flow of energy through your body. And as you close your eyes, just take a moment to dream into or to see some of the things that you'd like to explore and get to know this cycle, whether it's, we've talked about classes, we've talked about hobbies, we've talked about all these kinds of different things that we can get into. Maybe even if you have some intentions or goals for this cycle, maybe you might start thinking about those. And as you call those to mind, to get them from swimming up in your head, I want you to envision that you're planting each of those seedlings into the ground. So as you hold the vision for a new experience that you're embarking on, just see yourself kind of digging a hole and planting that seedling into the earth so that it can land and grow. And once you've planted the first thing, you can move a few inches over and go ahead and plant the next seedling of idea, of interest, something new that's awakening for you, a curiosity. And just keep going until you feel like you've planted your garden. When that feels complete, go ahead and take a step back and imagine yourself watering these seeds that you've planted with your intention, with your commitment, with your positivity, with your optimism, so that they can really sprout and grow. And when that feels complete, we can slowly open your eyes, let the light come back in, bring yourself back into the room, maybe looking at all four corners of your room to reorient yourself in time and space. I see some folks kind of giving their neck a little neck roll, body roll to loosen things up. And I love that visualization because you can do it as a longer, fuller meditation. You can spend 10, 20, 30 minutes in your meditative practice planting those seeds and cultivating them or watching them grow. Or, y'all know I'm big on morning quickie wellness rituals. You can just wake up the morning and just, visualize, what seed am I planting for today? What's my intention for today? And just plant that seed before you get up out of bed. And it's just a really quick way to orient yourself into this beautiful energy of the wood element so that it can be supportive to you. So I hope that was helpful for the folks that are watching the video. I hope you have a good time planting those seeds and living into this Gemini season and this wood element. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. And we're going to go offline and off recording now so that we can have a conversation with the folks that are here on Zoom about what they're going to be up to this cycle. So we'll see you next time.